I want to say thank you for taking time to be here, and it's a pleasure for me. So my name is Ed Potosnak. I am running for Congress. I want to be your congressman. And my background is not in politics, so I'm not your typical politician. I'm actually not a politician. I was a chemistry teacher at Bridgewater High School. And I'm running for Congress because I'm very concerned that America's losing its edge. And I want to make sure we get it back. And my feeling is that career politicians, like my opponent, have spent so much time worrying about keeping their own job, they've lost sight of making sure we have jobs, that our students who are in school, when they graduate, that they'll be able to get good jobs. And so instead of worrying about us, they're more worried about making sure they have a job and that their future is secure, that they have lifetime health care and a lifetime pension. And meanwhile, they're going out of their way to little by little erode at so many of the things that our country has spent generations making sure we have in place for our long-term prosperity. So today I'm going to speak with you a little bit about some issues that I think will be concerning to you, and then at the end, if there are things I didn't cover that you want me to speak about or address, or if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to take those as well. So I have some prepared remarks, which I may go off a little bit, but then I'm happy to have a little bit more of a free-form dialogue at the end. So my background, again, is as a chemistry teacher. I put myself through college at Rutgers, both an undergraduate and master's degree. I took on many extra jobs, sometimes working more than 3 jobs to put myself through college. So I understand what it's like and how hard you have to work to overcome obstacles in your life. And I know our country right now today faces some of the greatest obstacles we have in many decades. And with the same hard work, I intend to help our country overcome them. When I was teaching chemistry at Bridgewater, I had an opportunity to become an Einstein Fellow. And what the Einstein Fellowship is for math and science teachers to take their experience in the classroom to inform federal education policy. And I spent 2 years down in Washington, D.C. working on Capitol Hill on just that, making sure that our math and science teachers, our students in the classroom, were equipped to compete in an ever-increasing global economy and make sure that we continue here in America to be a leader in the 21st century. My time in Washington was wonderful, but that's where I really got to see the best and oftentimes the worst of what career politicians do, when they spend so much time talking at one another instead of working together to make sure that we have a strong future. I also have a small home repair business. I'm not doing it now, so if there's something wrong in your room, I'm not the person to speak with. But my parents had their own family businesses that I helped them and worked with them to grow. They made batteries for police and fire, making sure that they, when a firefighter goes into a burning building, that they can communicate with the chief outside. So that battery, that radio, was a lifeline for them. And I worked all through high school and into college, making sure my parents could grow that business and we could provide affordable alternatives to some of the big guns that are out there in the market, and ultimately save taxpayers money. My parents taught me that this country, and especially New Jersey, it's been built on generations of entrepreneurs, people with good ideas who weren't afraid to take a risk. And I understand what it's like to hold a real world job, what it's like to struggle and overcome those obstacles. And my opponent, Leonard Lance, he's a 3rd generation politician. The only job he's ever had is in politics. He doesn't understand what it's like to struggle. He doesn't have the perspective that we need to make sure we get out of these devastating and troubling economic times. And so one issue that I know is particularly important is that we make sure in this country we continue to pride ourselves on our word. And since President Roosevelt, we have promised hardworking Americans a safe and secure retirement through Social Security. For years, my opponent's party, they've been trying to break that promise. by chipping away at the benefits, raising the retirement age, and devising other measures designed to take away from our Social Security system. And Congressman Lance, he votes consistently with the conservative leadership, who just last week, they talked about raising the Social Security age by 5 years to 70. That's not a solution. When career politicians are not making the right choices, that we make the investment and deliver on our promise, that's the problem. And how we solve it is not by raising the retirement age. We solve it by getting rid of the career politicians that caused the problem, or the underfunding that we weren't able to deliver on that promise. And I'm committed to make sure that as they work to dismantle Social Security, that I work twice as hard to make sure that we keep it and we make good on that promise. And I know that you're probably concerned as well about healthcare. The recent healthcare legislation that was passed, while not perfect, did in fact help and benefit New Jersey. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what the differences between me and my opponent are on healthcare. First of all, you're looking at someone who went without healthcare because I couldn't afford it. My parents were not able to get employer-based health insurance, and I had nowhere to turn. So I understand what it's like to have that cloud over your head, that if you happen to trip while you're walking down the street, how are you going to pay for those bills if you need a cast? That already the costs are so high, there's no option to buy insurance, and then you have to be very careful about even the simplest tasks. What might happen if something were to go wrong? So I'm very committed to making sure that we make healthcare affordable. My opponent was the first member of Congress to call for the full repeal of healthcare. Now, I think it's not perfect. We have to make some tweaks, and some are major changes. But let me tell you what that would mean, full repeal. First, the Medicare prescription donut hole, which some of you may have received checks, $250 checks to help with that gap. That means reopening the donut hole. That also means to continue the discriminatory practice of not allowing individuals with pre-existing conditions to get health care. It means that our younger generation, as they're transitioning from college to the workforce, or high school to the workforce, that they will not be allowed to be covered under their parents' insurance policy. So I don't favor repeal, I favor repair. We have been able to place sweeping reforms that it's taken decades and decades to get to. So I don't want to start back at zero and wait another 40 years to close the donut hole. I don't want to wait another 40 years that someone can be discriminated against because they happen to be sick, that if they switch jobs, that they lose coverage, that they can't get the health care that they need. And I certainly don't want any of our seniors to have to choose between paying their bills, getting groceries, rent, or affording to make their payment on their home and getting prescriptions or seeing the doctor. To me, it doesn't make sense. So repair. And we do that by making sure we have better competition, that we have stronger provisions for competition across the market with insurance industry and other alternatives for getting that health care. For the last century, America has been the greatest nation on earth. And like I said early on, I am extremely concerned that America is losing its edge. And the America you built, that your parents built, it's slipping away. We can't take our cues from Europe and Asia. You know, when America leads, that's when America succeeds. And my opponent, he's not leading, he's following. I launched my campaign from a small business. I told you about my small business background, that my family, all of them, have started small businesses. He's been in Congress for a year and a half. Didn't hear anything about small businesses. But yet, about a month after I launched my campaign, he had a press conference at a small business. And he had opportunities to vote for legislation to help small businesses, and he didn't. And he touted a bill that did a lot of the same things he had an opportunity to vote for. That's a follower. And I think we need a leader. That small businesses are the engine of our economy. And that with them, we can get our edge back. With them, we can put back out-of-work Americans. And with them, we can help entrepreneurs who, when they see an empty storefront, they don't get sad, they smile, because that's a place where they can put a business. That's a place where they can grow their business, open a second or a third branch. And we have to help them, we have to support them. And I'm committed to doing that. And I'm committed to making sure I'm ahead of the curve, not following the curve, and how we can get there to support those business those business people and entrepreneurs.